Every week, Surfing the MASH Tsunami brings you three major stories from the world of steatotic liver disease. This weekend, we are bringing you each of those stories separately so you can listen during a shorter, discrete period of time. Hope you enjoy them.
For the last 5 years, MASLD stakeholders, whether manufacturers, trial sites, providers, payers, patients, or investors, have turned to Surfing the MASH Tsunami to keep track of drug and device development, epidemiology, public health initiatives, and practice patterns. This weekend, we are sharing the three main sections from our episode 3. Roger will provide more information after these notes from our sponsors.
Surfing the MASH Tsunami is sponsored by these healthcare-related organizations.
Madrigal Pharmaceuticals, Inc. is a biopharmaceutical company focused on delivering novel therapeutics for metabolic dysfunction-associated steatohepatitis, or MASH, a liver disease with high unmet medical need. Madrigal's medication, Rezdiffra, resmetirom, is a once-daily oral liver-directed THR beta agonist designed to target key underlying causes of MASH. Rezdiffra is the first and only medication approved by the FDA for the treatment of MASH with moderate to advanced fibrosis, consistent with stages F2 to F3. An ongoing Phase 3 outcomes trial is evaluating Rezdiffra for the treatment of compensated MASH cirrhosis, consistent with stage F4C. For more information, visit www.madrigalpharma.com.
Liver Right and the Liver Right Scanning Network. On April 15th, 2025, Liver Right will open America's first virtual specialty clinic for liver disease, offering adults in all 50 states video appointments and helping GI practices and health systems triage and treat the swelling numbers of patients seeking MASLD and MASH testing. Liver Right offers same-week video visits and accepts insurance. For more information, contact Liver Right, that's liver, and then RIGHT at www.liverright.com.
Tawazin Health, your partner in global liver health innovation. At Tawazin Health, we specialize in providing small or large-scale access to FibroScan examinations for liver health-focused early detection, clinical trials, independent research, and collaborative projects with clinicians and FibroScan providers increasingly throughout the world. As industry-leading experts, we design and deliver high-quality FibroScan services because we know that accurate, high-quality, reliable data drives better outcomes. To learn about our sister lifestyle app, mylife365.me, click the Tawazin Health link on the SurfingMASH homepage.
This week, our roundtable wraps up the Emerging Trends Conference discussion with Aleksander Krag, Lalos, Jenn, Leigh Jones, Louise, Campbell, and me. This is really a much shorter section. We talk a little bit about reasons for optimism in terms of drug development. We actually start back on the subject of MASLD and ALD, and should we be doing trials for MASLD or not? The conclusion of the group largely is that while it's important to study patients who have MASLD, it doesn't make sense necessarily to do trials for that phenomenon itself, given A, that it's a kind of a tweener phenomenon, and B, that it's hard to deal with things like changes in amounts of drinking from time to time in terms of how would you classify a patient. From there, I ask everybody what is the one thing that they are taking away from the conference and the one other thing they would like listeners to take away. And what you'll hear is most of it's about the vitality of the space right now. Jenn, Leigh Jones talks about how we've really made serious work of the idea that this is a spectrum rather than a singular disease, given that she is on a MASH podcast working on global liver council issues, and she lives with ALD. Aleksander Krag talked about the phenomenal opportunities ahead. Aleksander Lalos talked about his excitement in treating patients. And with that, our first roundtable in the V2.0 came to an end, and I'm looking forward to what we're going to bring you next month as we talk about exciting things in drug development.
And now, here are Roger and his guests with the final segment of the Emerging Trends Conference Roundtable.
With that said, let's turn to today's guests and get rolling with the business portion of our session. First of all, we have Louise. Hey, Louise, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much. Nice to be back. Nice to see everybody on the other end of the screen.
Yeah. Since the last 6 months, how many times have you been to Australia?
3.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be in a decent time zone. Normally, this would be tomorrow for me.
Louise will sound alert and awake, and that's because it's not 2 in the morning in Perth. Well, it is 2 in the morning in Perth, but she's not in Perth. And she's awaiting eagerly a football match, 4 o'clock our time, that will determine exactly how successful Liverpool will be this year. Aleksander Krag, how are you today, sir?
I'm good. Thank you very much. And thank you for the invitation to come and join you here.
And thank you for joining. And you say a lot of rain in southern Denmark, huh?
No, we've actually had some pretty nice days here. We see the first flowers coming up. So spring is near, even here in the far north.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And then we have our good friend Jenn Jones back with us again from Sober Livers. Hey, Jenn, how are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Back from Vegas. I've been busy since I've gotten back because I realized when I take a short vacation or a conference, nobody's doing my job. So I came back to lots of emails and lots of work to do for our program.
Okay. Maybe you'll tell us a little bit about Vegas. And then our new guest, first-timer, is Alex Lalos. Alex is a hepatologist. He's on faculty at Rutgers and treats patients and is an advisor to our new sponsor, Liver Right. So, Alex, why don't you take a minute or two, tell everybody in the podcast world a little bit about yourself and what you do and how you came to be here today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I have a lot of interest in this field, actually, just being a clinical hepatologist. We kind of went through the whole hep C thing, and I just feel like the whole world has transitioned now into what this is probably the most significant liver disease. But it's good to join everybody. And Roger, I know you asked me to say something about me, and I guess I'm kind of boring. I don't really know what to say. I will say one thing that probably people don't realize that much. I have a Greek name. I was born in the United States, but I'm really, really very Greek. Most of my cousins were born in Greece. I spent 3 or 4 summers there when I was a kid. I speak fluent Greek. I have an apartment in Athens. I have a couple of close relatives there. So sometimes when people meet me, they kind of get surprised that, they know their name is Greek, but they're kind of surprised how Greek I am. It's part of my identity. I listen to the music, but still an American at heart.
We now have a Greek American. If you're a resident/citizen of both Australia and England, what is the hyphenated phrase to describe that?
Let's put it this way, 60% of Perth is English. So I think you could call them Australian.
Okay.
POMS, as they're called from the other side. It's why the demographic of fatty liver disease is following everybody around the world.
Louise, what's that city in Australia that's 30% Greek? Melbourne or?
Sydney has a very big Greek community when I was living there, and they burnt down the cinema, the theatre, when you won the Euros, because I lived around the corner. They got a bit exuberant when you won that tournament. So I'd say Sydney's got a very big Greek community, but I think Melbourne does as well.
If we can't agree on a definition of MASLD, it's kind of hard to do a clinical trial on MASLD. But by the way, it's not clear to me that we need to for the reason you just said. And that's before you get to Anna Marie Diehl's paper questioning, well, if all senescent cells, no matter what organ they're in, have iron overloads, why are we worrying so much time about the narrowness of the definition, and why aren't we spending more work on what do we do about reducing iron overload in patients where these things are leading to a lot of cell death and a lot of really bad stuff?
Of course, there's needed a lot of research, and we've long known at least alcohol and iron, they go together and accumulates iron. To what extent it's really part of the story, and to what extent it really associated with the clinical outcome, what extent modification of it will alter the clinical outcome. These are still unanswered questions. So that's, again, we generate a lot of new knowledge that sometimes make us smarter, sometimes make it more challenging, and also sometimes confuses us a little bit, but it's definitely a part of the story. But I think the good news, again, to be optimistic here, for 10 years back, it was failure. Now we got a ton of drugs. The first approved drug, the next GLP-1 or incretin base is coming, and there's several coming next. The signals are super strong. We got the FGF21s, at least in phase 2, look very good. So it's a breakthrough in hepatology. This is what we saw with the DAAs, more or less, what is coming out now with the FGF21. It's transformative that you can see you can reverse fibrosis, you can reverse cirrhosis, and this is just the beginning. So honestly, I'm really optimistic. We may not understand the full mechanism. Basically, we don't fully understand what is resmetirom actually doing, yet it works. And that's, again, amazing. So I think we should definitely have the optimistic, and it's an important part in the history of hepatology. Also, why this timing of bridging the steatotic liver disease community together is super helpful for the patients, and hopefully we'll see also pharma seeing that the unmet need and the opportunities is for their drugs in the sister or brother disease just next to it, and where they are sometimes is definitely something to pursue.
Point well made, point well taken. One of the things in that regard that I found really exciting is when they were showing SNPs on Thursday, that you found the SNPs of FGF21 aligned both with MASLD and with cirrhosis, with steatosis and fibrosis, so that fundamentally you have this one mode of action that could have success anywhere from F2 on through to portal hypertension.
That would be the magic again. Yeah. FGF21 GLP-1s, you can see the Akero study. That at least as now we know from the press release, that was reversal of cirrhosis. That's a breakthrough, and it's being tested. There are various FGF21s also in earlier stages. So, and again, it goes on a completely different pathway than GLP-1s. So they could potentially be combined. There's several opportunities there.
Agreed.
In that paper, actually, I believe if you look at the KPA, this is the Akero, the FGF21, the KPA values were as high as, I think, 25 to 26 or something, and they dropped, I believe, about 25%. So even though they weren't decompensated, these people were borderline portal hypertension. I mean, these were pretty significant underlying liver disease. Ed, you kind of wonder, getting back to Jen's comment, can you give this to someone with alcohol-related liver disease at some point? I mean, I guess we're getting a little bit on in this podcast, but I've been doing this a long time, and I have three things, and Roger's heard these because I make it part of my talk, but I was around when Prilosec came out, and I thought, my God, this is a miracle. All these people who had erosive esophagitis are coming in. Oh, I'm so much better. And the next big thing that I experienced, I think, was around, 2013, 2014, when I still remember going to the AASLD and hearing Ray Chung give the whole thing about the DAAs, and we were all just floored, I think, that this is over. I mean, not over, but compared to interferon ribavirin, I thought this is amazing. And I think this is the third big thing that I've witnessed in my life as a doctor. And I think it might be the biggest, just because, not everybody has reflux, not everybody, erosive esophagitis, not everybody has hep C, but how many people in the world have this? I mean, and it's cardiac disease, renal disease. I mean, it comes to the crux of general health. So it's just a great time, a very interesting time to be in this field, just because it just seems like there's so many. The confusion is actually a good thing, because it just means that there's a lot of things that are going to be out there.
So, Alex, let me use that comment. Unless someone else says I want to use that as a bridge to final question, since we've been at this for quite a while now. And it's great, but it's been quite a while. Final question for each of you. Two questions, really. Number one is something you're taking away from this discussion or took away from the meeting that you didn't have before you got to the meeting. And the second is something you would like listeners to take away from this discussion. Brave one, go first.
I'm happy to go first. I might repeat myself, but my key takeaway, the more I look into it, we should not see MASLD in isolation. We need to see steatotic liver disease as a spectrum. And that's why it was a great meeting, because that was the topic. Then I think what's important for the listeners, patients and doctors and researchers, is that there's a lot of optimism. I think what we know now, we can see these breakthroughs across not just one drug, but several drugs and whole drug classes, means that we are looking into a transformative future for people with steatotic liver disease, not just those with low alcohol, the MASLD, but certainly also alcohol. So it's going to be super exciting the next 10 years.
Excellent.
Well, first of all, I've really enjoyed this conversation, as I always do when I come on Roger's podcast. We have very lively discussions. So thank you. And what I was getting from this conversation is yes, MASLD is this wonderful tool or diagnosis that we have. But again, not a good idea to focus on clinical trials in this area at this point. Let's put it in one category or another category when we're doing the study, with the understanding that there may be this alcohol involved, I think is a really good way for us to proceed. But yeah, exactly. Exciting times. I mean, for me, I recall when I started advocating, which was probably 2020 when I really started advocating, I have seen such an increase in people being aware of alcohol-associated liver disease, but also people who are working together now and breaking the silos, like what happened in this meeting, like what's happening today here in this podcast, right? Because I'm on SurfingMASH and I've got alcohol-associated liver disease. I mean, this is how we're changing. I'm part of 2 working groups for the Global NASH Council. I mean, all these silos are getting broken, and we are coming together as a group for the liver. And hopefully we can get legislation out of it. We can get some policy out of it. We can get some really good, and hopefully really, really good drugs out of it, which is we're making some turning points there. Liver transplant. I mean, all of these things we are really pushing forward finally as a team. And that's what I really like about this conversation, and also about what happened at the ETC.
As somebody who didn't attend the conference. Listening to you all here, I suppose, undermines that the conference's commitment and the field's commitment to addressing multifaceted diseases, whether it's MASLD, Met-ALD or ALD, and that we can use the opportunities that we get across that spectrum to improve patient care and outcomes. Just grabbing on something that Alex said, yes, there's a lot of people out there. So people like ourselves who get to the coalface like you guys do, our job is only getting bigger to be able to share that detail and information with primary care for the early diagnosis and the support of patients out there. And I think the field is here to develop. That's the one thing I'd like listeners to take away, is that we are developing, and the speed of the changes in the next few years will be absolutely massive. And I think that's exciting.
Okay, Alex.
Number one, I'll tell you that this whole concept of Met-ALD, obviously I knew about it before I came in, but I guess I didn't appreciate how really important it really is. This, I don't want to sound like I came in ignorant, but I think I appreciate the nuances a lot more and the questions that it raises. The one thing I don't think we covered that much, and I my background again is a lot clinical, and like I said, I used to work for a big multi-specialty group that looked at the way we practice. And my challenge, and the lectures by Ray Kim and some of the FibroScan lectures raises the question as to we're outlining how we're going to, if you can't fix it if you can't find it. That's my, I like to say that we have to find the problem in order to fix it. If you don't have a fix, don't bother to look for the problem. But now we have a fix. So we got to find these patients, and to go out and find them and get primary care to engage and understand this disease and appreciate the FIB4 or whatever test we all embrace ultimately. And then to get the access for the fibro scanning. Roger and I have been involved in discussing that we can find all the FIB4s we want, but if we can only do 10, at Rutgers, we do 10 or 12 fibro scans a week for the whole system. That's just not enough. So the challenge is not only the stuff we talked about, but how are we going to take the next step and on a population level really impact this disease? And that's going to take, primary care, politicians, insurers, pharmaceuticals, and we have to lead the charge. But Aleksander, Louise, myself, any of the other guys, it's not enough of us to do it. So that's going to be the next big challenge, I think, and it's probably something for another podcast, really.
Oh, or six more podcasts. It's a major topic. I've always said that complication is a problem, but complexity usually is pretty simple. The idea that we can take alcohol, diet, put them on a continuum, understand that with a genetic overlay on one side and some questions about counseling on the other, there's a lot here. But the more we have one set of skills or one set of disciplines to look at, the better over time we're going to be dealing with it. So I believe that's true. I think as we're making this more complex, we're also making it simpler to conceptualize. And then obviously things like FGF21 pop out and seem to be more universal, or incretin agonists than others, number one. Number two, I think, Jenn, this goes back to your talk. We all have to learn how to listen better. And we have a system that hasn't built a lot of time in for listening, really anywhere in the world. So we need to think about classes of providers that can be better listeners and then can translate that for those who don't have time to listen or as much time to listen into action that makes sense. I think if we look at doctors and say, you guys have to listen better, treat more carefully, be more thoughtful, see more patients, that just isn't all going to happen. So we need to think at the same time about how do we treat the different elements of this. I think these are fantastic questions. I thought it was an amazing meeting, Aleksander. I got to tell you. And I missed Estherelle, sadly, but I'm told that was pretty spectacular as well. All right. With that, anybody have anything they want to add? Go ahead, Louise.
It's so nice to be back having conversations with everybody.
You and me. You and me. It's exactly right.
Miss it.
Yeah, me too.
And I have to do a plug for Sober Livers. It's soberlivers with an s.org. So if you or anyone who is suffering from alcohol-associated liver disease or have had a transplant due to alcohol or love someone who is, you go there. You can join one of our meetings, our Facebook group, and we are also looking for money so to sustain our program. And so if you are someone or someone who can help us with that, go to soberlivers.org and you can donate to our program. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Everybody just stick with us, okay? Because we're going back with more elements of this episode. But let me say thanks to our to our panel right now. You guys, Aleksander, do you have something you want to add before we go?
Yeah. No, I just want to invite you all to Amsterdam. So the next big splash in hepatology, where everybody from the world comes together across. If you're interested in clinics, hands-on frontline research, you're a patient advocate, you're a liver nurse, whatever, we got it all in Amsterdam. So come and join the EASL Congress in Amsterdam, May 7th to 10th. I'm looking forward to see you all.
I'm there.
Aleksander, I want to plug on too. I've been going to EASL for the last 7 years because going full circle, I like to go to Greece after and check on my apartment there. But I will tell you, the EASL conference, I find the meeting great. I think it's a great meeting, and I encourage any U.S. physicians that might be listening here are interested in liver disease to really look into it, not only for social reasons and traveling reasons. It is a great meeting. It really is.
Please join us again next week when we start a new roundtable on advances in drug development in the last year, while our newsmakers and experts explore current issues and major ideas.
Until then, stay safe, surf on, and we'll see you next week on the Surfing the MASH Tsunami podcast. Hopefully I'll have my whole voice back by then. Bye-bye now.